Take a moment today to notice how your energy feels now compared to even a week ago. Not perfectly healed, not completely transformed overnight, just different. A little quieter, perhaps, a little more aware, a little less willing to rush emotionally through everything. That matters more than you think, because after yesterday's Taurus New Moon, the energy now begins shifting from planting intentions into learning how to live inside them gently. And that process is not meant to feel forced. It's meant to feel grounding, like your nervous system is slowly being invited to stop running quite so fast. You may notice today that your body wants softer rhythms now, more rest, more calmness, more emotionally safe spaces, more moments where you don't need to constantly brace yourself internally. Listen to that carefully, because healing often begins quietly, not through dramatic breakthroughs, through small moments where your system finally realizes, I don't need to stay in survival mode right now. That realization changes people slowly and beautifully. You may also notice that your mind feels less interested in emotional chaos lately, less drawn toward urgency, less attached to emotionally exhausting cycles, less willing to sacrifice peace just to feel temporary intensity. That's growth. Not boring growth, grounded growth, the kind that actually lasts. And under this post-new moon energy, that slower pace matters deeply. Because seeds do not grow through force, they grow through nourishment, consistency, patience, care, the same way emotional healing does. You may even feel today that part of you is finally becoming tired of carrying unnecessary emotional pressure constantly. Not because you've given up, because your inner world is learning that softness can also be strength, that peace can also be productive, that slower emotional rhythms can still lead somewhere meaningful. And maybe that's exactly what your nervous system has needed for a very long time. So today, give yourself permission to slow down emotionally, not to stop growing, but to finally grow without constantly overwhelming yourself in the process.
There's a reason your energy may feel softer today, not weaker, softer. Because after long periods of emotional pressure, the nervous system naturally begins searching for safety again. Not perfection, safety. And sometimes healing begins through very small realizations, like noticing you don't actually need to react immediately anymore. You don't need to emotionally carry everything at once. You don't need to solve your entire future today. You can breathe first. You can slow down first. You can return to yourself first. That's the energy surrounding this moment now. The Taurus New Moon opened a doorway into steadier growth. But steadier growth requires a steadier internal environment too. That's why your body may be asking for gentleness lately, more sleep, more quiet moments, more grounding routines, more emotionally supportive spaces. Not because you're falling behind, because your system is trying to recalibrate itself away from survival mode. And recalibration takes kindness, not pressure. You may also notice today that your awareness feels different now, less fascinated by emotional chaos, less attached to urgency, less emotionally available for things that repeatedly drain your peace. That's not emotional numbness, that's wisdom becoming calmer. Because real healing does not always feel dramatic. Sometimes it feels like finally relaxing your shoulders after carrying tension for years. Sometimes it feels like saying, I deserve peace too, and truly meaning it. That's powerful, especially emotionally. You may even realize today that your nervous system has been waiting for permission to slow down safely, permission to stop anticipating problems constantly, permission to stop emotionally over-preparing for everything, permission to simply exist without needing to earn rest first. And maybe this is your reminder. You do not need to become perfect before allowing yourself softness. You do not need to heal instantly before deserving peace. Growth is already happening, quietly, even now, especially now. Because beneath the surface, your inner world is learning to trust calmness again, learning how to build life without emotional panic leading every decision, learning to nourish itself instead of constantly surviving itself. And that kind of healing changes everything over time. So, today, be gentle with yourself, not as avoidance, as alignment. Because the calmer you become internally, the easier it becomes to hear what truly matters beneath all the noise.
Sometimes, when life becomes quieter emotionally, people worry they're losing momentum. Like if everything is not emotionally intense, constantly moving, constantly urgent, then maybe nothing meaningful is happening. But that's not true. Not anymore. Because one of the biggest shifts during healing is learning that peace can still contain progress. You may notice today that your mind still wants to rush sometimes, still wants immediate answers, immediate clarity, immediate proof that everything is working out. That's okay. You don't need to judge yourself for that. Survival mode trained your nervous system to search for certainty constantly. It learned to equate urgency with safety. But this new chapter is teaching your body something softer now, that grounded growth does not always feel dramatic. Sometimes growth feels calm, sometimes it feels ordinary, and sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is stop overwhelming yourself emotionally just to feel like you are doing enough. That realization matters deeply, because emotional exhaustion is not proof of effort, and constant stress is not proof of progress. You may also notice today that your energy feels more protective now, more aware of what drains you, more aware of what overstimulates you, more aware of what genuinely helps you feel grounded. That awareness is important. Not because life should become perfect, but because mindfulness teaches you to stop abandoning yourself repeatedly, to stop overriding your own needs constantly, to stop forcing yourself to emotionally carry more than your system can hold. And maybe that's part of the healing too. Learning that rest does not need to be earned through burnout first. Learning that softness does not make you weak. Learning that emotional balance is not laziness, it's wisdom, especially after long periods of survival mode. You may even realize today that peace feels unfamiliar because your nervous system spent so much time preparing for instability. But unfamiliar does not mean wrong. Sometimes unfamiliar is simply what healing feels like at first. And the more gently you allow yourself to settle into it, the more natural it becomes. Breathing deeper, thinking clearer, reacting slower, trusting yourself more. Those quieter shifts are rebuilding your foundation in real time. So today, remind yourself gently. You do not need to rush your becoming. You do not need to force your healing. And you do not need to constantly suffer to prove that you are growing. Sometimes, growth looks like finally allowing peace to stay a little longer than before. For a long time,
You may have believed that growth only counted when it looked dramatic. Big breakthroughs, big emotional realizations, big visible changes. But healing often unfolds much more quietly than that. Sometimes healing looks like responding a little softer to yourself. Sometimes it looks like not spiraling as deeply as before. Sometimes it looks like finally resting without feeling guilty for it. Those moments matter more than you realize, because your nervous system does not heal through force. It heals through safety, through repetition, through consistency, through enough calm experiences that the body slowly begins believing, maybe I don't have to stay on alert all the time anymore. And that realization can change a life slowly. You may notice today that part of you still wants to rush the process sometimes, wanting immediate certainty, immediate transformation, immediate emotional clarity. That's understandable, especially if survival mode taught your system that slowing down was dangerous. But this new energy is teaching something different now. That slower does not mean stuck. Resting does not mean failing, and peaceful moments are not interruptions to growth. They are part of growth. That's why the Taurus New Moon energy feels so grounding right now. It reminds you that sustainable growth is built gradually, like roots deepening underground, quietly, patiently, without needing constant proof that progress is happening every second. You may even feel today that your emotional standards are changing gently, not from pressure, from self-respect. You become less willing to emotionally abandon yourself, less willing to stay inside environments that constantly overstimulate your nervous system, not because you've become cold, because your inner world is finally learning what peace feels like. And once you truly experience peace, you begin protecting it differently, not fearfully, lovingly. You may also realize today that mindfulness is not about becoming emotionless. It's about becoming present enough to stop fighting yourself constantly, present enough to notice what your body needs, present enough to recognize when you're overwhelmed, present enough to return to yourself gently instead of criticizing yourself for struggling. That presence is healing too. And maybe right now, your soul does not need more pressure. Maybe it needs reassurance, a reminder that you are allowed to grow slowly, allowed to soften gradually, allowed to rebuild your life without exhausting yourself in the process. So today, let your healing breathe a little. Let your nervous system rest a little. Let yourself trust that meaningful transformation does not always arrive loudly. Sometimes it arrives quietly enough for peace to finally stay. You do not need a complete life transformation overnight for healing to be real. Sometimes the most meaningful shifts are the smallest ones, choosing rest instead of emotional overexhaustion, taking one deep breath before reacting impulsively, creating one healthier boundary, drinking more water, sleeping earlier, speaking to yourself more gently. Those moments matter, not because they look impressive externally, because they slowly teach your nervous system that life can feel different now, safer, softer, more sustainable. And under this Taurus New Moon energy, those quieter daily choices carry incredible power, because Taurus energy builds slowly, patiently, like planting seeds and trusting that roots are forming even before you see visible growth. That's why mindfulness matters so much right now, not as perfection, as presence. Presence with your body, presence with your emotions,
presence with your own energy levels instead of constantly overriding them. You may notice today that your intuition feels clearer when your nervous system is calmer. That's not coincidence. When the mind stops racing constantly, when emotional urgency softens, when the body feels safer, clarity naturally rises to the surface. And maybe that's what this chapter is really teaching you, that you do not need chaos to hear yourself clearly. You do not need emotional extremes to feel alive. You do not need constant pressure to create meaningful growth. Sometimes growth happens most beautifully inside ordinary moments of consistency. A peaceful morning, a healthier decision, a calmer response, a quiet moment where your body finally exhales fully. Those moments are not small to your nervous system. They are evidence that healing is becoming real. You may also realize today that your relationship with yourself is slowly changing too. More patience, more understanding, more willingness to meet yourself where you are, instead of constantly criticizing yourself for where you are not yet. That kindness matters deeply, because sustainable transformation cannot grow inside constant self-rejection. It grows inside safety, inside support, inside environments where your mind and body feel allowed to evolve gradually. And maybe right now, your healing does not need more force. Maybe it needs nourishment, gentleness, consistency, trust. So today, don't underestimate the power of your quieter choices, the slower mornings, the healthier boundaries, the moments you choose peace instead of emotional chaos, because those small daily shifts are slowly becoming the foundation of an entirely different future.
There's a quieter kind of strength beginning to grow within you now, not the kind that comes from pushing harder, the kind that comes from no longer needing to. You may notice today that your body responds differently to peace now. Maybe you breathe deeper more often. Maybe your thoughts slow down sooner. Maybe certain emotional situations no longer pull you into overwhelm as quickly as before. Even if it's subtle, that matters, because your nervous system is learning a new rhythm, a rhythm built less on survival and more on regulation. And regulation can feel unfamiliar at first, especially if you spend years adapting to emotional unpredictability. When chaos becomes familiar, peace can initially feel strange. Not because peace is wrong, because your system is still learning how to trust it. That's why this phase requires gentleness, not judgment. You do not need to criticize yourself for still feeling anxious sometimes. You do not need to shame yourself for healing slowly. Your nervous system is trying to unlearn patterns it carried for a very long time. That process deserves compassion, not pressure. You may also notice today that you feel more emotionally aware now. Not hyper-aware, present. More connected to what drains you, more connected to what restores you, more conscious of the environments your body feels safest inside. That awareness is mindfulness becoming embodied, not just something you think about, something you begin living. And slowly, those quieter choices reshape your internal world, choosing rest before burnout, choosing honesty before suppression, choosing grounding before emotional chaos. Each small decision teaches your nervous system, we are safe enough to slow down now. And maybe that's one of the deepest forms of healing there is. Not becoming someone completely different overnight, but finally creating enough inner safety for your true self to stop hiding behind survival patterns constantly. You may even realize today that you are becoming more patient with yourself, more willing to pause, more willing to breathe, more willing to grow gradually instead of demanding perfection immediately. That patience is changing you more than you realize, because healing does not bloom through fear, it blooms through steady nourishment, the same way roots strengthen underground, quietly, consistently, without needing attention every second to keep growing. So today, let your body soften a little. Let your shoulders unclench a little. Let your mind rest from carrying the future all at once. You are allowed to heal at a human pace. And maybe this slower rhythm is not delaying your growth. Maybe it's finally making your growth sustainable.
Before you move into the rest of your day, pause here for a moment. Not to force deep reflection, not to figure everything out immediately, just to breathe, slowly, softly, without needing to earn this moment first. Because maybe that's part of what this new energy is teaching you now, that you are allowed to exist without constantly bracing for something, allowed to rest without feeling guilty, allowed to heal without rushing the process, and allowed to grow without emotionally exhausting yourself along the way. That matters deeply, especially after long periods of survival mode, because survival mode teaches people to keep running internally, keep preparing, keep overthinking, keep carrying emotional pressure even during moments that should feel peaceful. But your nervous system is beginning to learn something different now, that peace can be safe too, that calmness does not mean you are falling behind, that slower growth can still lead somewhere beautiful. And maybe that realization is already changing you quietly. You may notice it through smaller moments now, responding softer to yourself, needing less emotional chaos, protecting your energy more carefully, wanting a future that actually feels sustainable emotionally. Those are not small shifts. Those are signs that your inner world is finally beginning to choose itself differently, not from fear, from care. That's the deeper lesson within this Taurus New Moon energy, not forcing transformation, nourishing transformation. The way you would water roots patiently without digging them up every day to check if they're growing fast enough. Your healing works the same way. Gentle awareness matters. Gentle awareness matters. The small ways you care for yourself daily matter more than dramatic emotional breakthroughs ever could. Because long-term peace is not built in one perfect moment. It's built through repeated moments where you choose not to abandon yourself anymore. And each time you choose grounding, each time you choose rest, each time you choose honesty, softness, presence, your nervous system remembers, your body remembers, your future changes. Slowly, perhaps, but truthfully. So as you move forward from here, stay close to what feels nourishing, not emotionally addictive, not emotionally overwhelming, nourishing. The people who calm your spirit, the routines that steady your mind, the spaces where your body can finally exhale. Let those things become sacred now, because this next chapter does not need to be built through pressure anymore. It can be built through presence, through mindfulness, through grounded care for the life you are slowly growing into. And if today felt softer than usual, maybe that softness was never weakness at all. Maybe it was your nervous system finally beginning to trust peace again.